guys, hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Allison, I'm 29, I work full-time in healthcare. I post a lot of videos about my personal finance journey as well as just lifestyle, work-life balance. And exciting news, today I am officially debt-free for now. And I say for now because most people I feel like are never truly debt-free in their life, and that's fine. But it feels really good for the moment. Well, I know that probably next year we're gonna take out a mortgage, which is gonna be hopefully the biggest loan that I ever take. My goal is to try at least to pay that off a little bit early. I don't know if I'll be able to go crazy debt payoff vibes like I have been, but obviously I will be trying to pay it off at least a little bit early, depending. I mean, I know we'll also probably want to start a family and I might cut back on my hours at work, so things may not allow us to put extra into like paying off debt and stuff, and that's totally fine, but that's a whole nother story. That's a whole different topic for later. I just wanted to share I did officially pay off my car loan. It's been a crazy journey. First of all, this video is going to be my payday routine video, as well as just talking a little bit about my debt-free journey, because I've been posting about this probably since I think 2021. Maybe not on YouTube since 2021, but definitely on short form and TikTok since 2021, because that's officially when I started paying off my student loans, which was the first leg of this journey. I kind of totaled up my debt that I've paid in the last 5 years, and looking at it now is crazy. So if you've been along for a lot of this journey, I started out with my student loans, and that was about $19,600. So I started paying those pretty much right after I graduated, because we were still in the deferment phase. I think that's the word. That might not be the word. Where you weren't getting interest because of COVID. So I was like, okay, I only have about $20,000 in student loans. I might as well start paying this now while I'm not getting any interest on it, and try to pay it off before interest starts accruing again. Then it got a little confusing because the next debt that I really wanted to focus on was my credit card debt, and I think at the peak of credit card debt, I would say I was at close to like $8,000. At the same time, we were trying to save and pay for our wedding. I know some people might think, why did you focus on your student loans first and not the credit card? But my credit card was at a 0% interest rate for the most part, I think, and then I did a balance transfer, so it was at 0. And then most recently I just paid off my car, which the total loan was about $18,500, and that took me about 2 years to pay off. Total, because I added it all together, total was about $46,000 of debt that I paid off in 5 years, which is insane, and I'm so proud of myself, and I just can't even believe it. It feels unreal, and it feels annoying actually that I've spent that much money and paid that much towards debt, but at least the student loans are gone. They're out of my life. I never have to deal with that again. I may have a car loan again sometime in my life, but at least that's out of my life for now while I focus on these next crazy big like adult things, like buying a house and having kids and worrying about all of that finances and how that's gonna work in our life. And credit card debt, obviously I'm glad that's gone, and hopefully never have to deal with that again unless it's like a true emergency. So now we're moving on to the saving part of my journey, where I really want to focus on building up emergency funds, sinking funds, saving for a house, getting as much extra towards that as we can, and just preparing ourselves for like the best case scenario while we still live in this apartment where our rent is relatively cheap. And that's why we chose to live here, so that like we could reach these goals even faster, because my husband is also on a debt payoff journey. I recognize that I'm very grateful and privileged to be in this position, and I'm grateful that I've been able to use social media to help me reach these goals, because I've definitely used a good amount of money that I've received from TikTok, YouTube, brand deals to help me pay off these things faster. And I kind of knew when I started this journey that that was the plan. Like I wanted to find different ways, not only like using social media, but like using side hustles, finding ways that I can save and pay this off faster. I think the goal was to pay it off before I turned 30, which I turned 30 in like 3 months, so we did it. But yeah, I guess if you have any other questions about my journey and my process, definitely let me know in the comments. I can do my best to answer, but essentially really the only tips that I have is just create a budget, try to stick to it, find anywhere that you can save money, find ways that you can make more money. You know, I know not everybody wants to get a second job, and I feel like nowadays there's so many other options than like a standard second job. Like social media for me is a second job. So I found a way to make extra money and do something that I love and share my journey with other people. I also did a lot of side hustles. If you followed me on TikTok for a long time and been here since that beginning journey, I was doing Amazon Flex, so I was driving for Amazon, I was doing Instacart, I was documenting all of that too, so that I was making money and growing a following on social media while doing those things. I had 2 small businesses on Etsy. I had a crystal shop, by the way, guys. Like, that was a crazy move for me, but it made a good profit margin and it was kind of fun. But I did a bunch of I tried so many different things. I knew that, okay, the 2 ways that I can make this happen is decrease my expenses and increase how much I made. I also was fortunate that like 2 years ago when we moved back to Pennsylvania, I took a different job that was gonna pay me more, and we were moving to an area where our expenses would be less. So that helped tremendously. And then on top of that, I was like, okay, now I'm also posting a lot more on social media and I'm making more from brand deals and the creator fund and YouTube now that I got monetized on YouTube. So I just kept finding ways that I could make some extra money and again, save where I could. At the same time, I do want to say, if you've watched any of my budgeting videos and things like that, I obviously also treat myself. I get my nails done. I pay a little bit extra for a premium gym membership. You know, I am fortunate again that I do make a decent full-time salary from my job, and if I did need to cut down on things, I would. But it all depends on you. Like, it truly depends on you and your goals. And okay, maybe if I had cut out some of those things over the last 2 years, I would have paid this off a little bit faster. But I've always said this, I'm a huge advocate for balance and finding balance within your life because 2 reasons. 1, you're not guaranteed tomorrow. I work in healthcare. I work in a very rewarding but eye-opening career where unfortunately people get sick and people get sick young. So you don't know for a fact that, you know, doing all of this and saving all this money and paying off your debt as fast as you can, you don't know that that's gonna benefit you in any way. You do also need to just live a little within reason. So that's my 2 cents on it. Again, you don't have to take my advice on anything ever. I just want to share that perspective when you hear certain things that are in my budget and you're like, oh, okay. I just wanted to share that it's possible to pay off a ton of debt and also still live your life and enjoy things and splurge a little and go on vacations and do whatever. Before I started this journey, there was a different mindset in my head where I wanted to take the trips. I wanted to do all this stuff and spend the extra money and I would just pay it back later. Now I would say I'm a little more, even my husband would say I'm a little more apprehensive to book trips or do anything really, because I'm so nervous about having the money and paying for it and like reaching my next goal, which is buying a house. But I do think within reason, I think 4 or 5 years ago, I booked like a European cruise for us and we went on it and we had a great time. It was so much fun, but that was a huge trip. Nowadays, we're doing more small local trips where we can drive and we have hotel points and we're only spending like a couple $100s versus like couple $1,000s. So there's changes that you can make and little switches that you can make where you can still, again, have fun, go on vacation, treat yourself, do different things, but also reach your goals. And it all depends on what you specifically want and how quickly you want to reach your goals and like what your situation is. Everyone's different. Everyone is going to have different priorities, goals, situation, different debts, different whatever. So anyway, I just wanted to share that yes, I am officially debt-free. And I say for now because we are planning on taking out a mortgage next year. I will share, since now that my debt payoff journey is over and my savings journey is beginning, my next savings goal is to save an extra $10,000 to $15,000 into our joint savings account for the down payment on the house. We already have money saved. I'm just saying from now until February, I want to save about anywhere between $10,000 and $15,000 to put towards the down payment / a little bit of like closing costs, like whatever. So today we're starting at 0, and going forward in my paycheck breakdown videos, I will start giving you updates on where we're at with that journey. We'll see. I think I'll at least get 10. The reach goal is like 15. So anyway, let's move on to the paycheck breakdown portion of this video because I'm trying not to make this super, super long. And also, you guys are getting back-to-back financial videos. I know, crazy. The last one took me like kind of a long time to edit, longer than I thought, and I've just been really struggling editing, you guys. I apologize. And then sometimes I've been doing my vlogs, week-long vlogs, because I prefer the week-long vlogs. I feel like they're really fun, but they do indeed take me a long time to edit. So anyway, paycheck breakdown. This is second paycheck for August. August is a 3 paycheck month. So I did do things a little differently for this paycheck because I wanted to move things around because I was so close to having like the exact amount that I needed to pay off the car that I wanted to move things around a little bit just so that I could make that like final payoff payment and not have to like split it up into 2. This was the paycheck I got paid on August 15th. My income was $2,199.39, and then I had $88.72 carry over from my last paycheck. Then what I did was move over $71.64 from my high yield savings account emergency fund. And the only reason it was that specific was because I got paid some interest in that account. Usually I try to keep it at like an even number, but it got some interest, and then I was like, okay, I'll just move that over to use towards paying the car off. Add that all together and it gave me $2,359.72 to budget with for the next 2 weeks. First thing that I did was save for my rent. So I saved $450. And then typically what I would have done is save $100 into my emergency fund. But again, I was so close to having the number that I needed to pay off the car that I didn't put anything into my emergency fund. I just moved that $100 towards the car payment. I did still end up putting $200 towards our joint savings account, which is for our house fund. So even as I've been paying this debt off the last few years, we've always kind of been at least putting something into a joint savings account for the two of us. That way, we have money saved up just in case. We have an emergency fund for whatever reason, and mainly we're using it for down payment on a house. But it is there just in case we were to need that money for anything. And it's really nice to have that money there, and it's nice to have money in savings just in case. And then into an account that we use for groceries, I put $150. And subscriptions, I have quite a few this pay period, unfortunately. There's Epidemic Sound, that's $19.07. I use that for YouTube, get all my like copyright music off of there, so I do like that one. There's our Blink subscription, that's $10.60. Book of the Month is $18.01. Spotify is $12.71, and Canva, which I also use for content creation, is $15. Total subscriptions is $75.39. Then I'm also gonna budget $35 $50 for my cats. I just need cat litter during these 2 weeks. I always need cat litter. And then my gym membership is $277.07. You guys saw I talked a little bit about it in my last video. I didn't end up going through with it, but I was gonna up my gym membership to get more classes per month, but I decided that I wasn't gonna do that because one, I didn't want to spend the extra money, and two, I feel like I just wasn't in the mindset to start going to the gym 3 times a week with my busy schedule. So I was like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to spend the money and then not even go. I'm also gonna budget $65 for gas for the next 2 weeks, which is pretty much just 2 tanks of gas. This is where I was like, okay, if I add all of those expenses together, those are kind of what I need. Those are the needs and the things that I have to budget for. How much do I have left over to put towards the car? And from this paycheck, I was able to put $850 towards the car. When you add all of that together, it comes to $2,102. And then if you subtract that from the number I had to budget with, that does leave me with $257 for the next 2 weeks. And that was the paycheck. That's the budget. I am very, very privileged in the fact that I have a decent paying job. I'm married, so I have a dual income household. We share some of the bills. I'm on my husband's insurance. So there's different factors, and I this is different for everyone. But obviously, I know not everyone can put $850 towards their car from their paycheck. No matter who you are and what your situation is, the overall point of budgeting is like, how can I adjust my budget so that it works for me and my goals and what I want? And that's all I try to convey on here and help is like, here's how I budget. Hopefully it helps in some kind of way, or is inspiring in some kind of way. I don't even know where I was going with that, but that's all I really had to say about that. And okay, the last thing that I want to mention, which will be my very last car loan payoff up. You guys already know because I told you in the beginning that I did pay off my car. You may have noticed that my last balance update, it was about $1,423 was my payoff amount, and I only put $850 from this paycheck. So that other $575 came from social media. And I'm gonna be honest, like I'm gonna be very transparent and honest with you guys. Like I do truly love posting, but one of the main reasons that I keep going and keep posting is the extra income. It is so nice to get paid and compensated for something that you enjoy doing. Like it's the best of both worlds. It really is. Why people choose to be influencers, as much as it's a taboo topic and controversial, it makes sense. Like why would you not want to do something that you enjoy and get paid for it? You know what I mean? That is where the other money came from that I was able to pay off the car. That's how I came up with that money, and I did officially make the very last payment towards my car, paid off. The balance is at 0. The last thing that I'm going to do is add in anything that I can into my spreadsheet so that I can update this with you guys. Add in my paycheck, so $2,199, and then I'm going to put $575 into that income so that I can also make the car payment. I am going to put in that I put $200 into our house fund. Here's how you would document this if you take money out of your savings. Like I mentioned at the beginning of this pay period, I took out money from my savings. I only really took out $50, even though I said it was $71.64. The other $21.64 was the interest that account accrues and just got put in there, and I don't usually document that on here, so it's gonna be confusing, but I'm only taking out $50 from my emergency fund. But how you document that on here is do -50 and then put emergency fund, and then it does technically add that money to the top because I took it out of my savings and now it's in the money that I can spend, which is why I like to track my savings as best as I can. Obviously I don't track every little thing when I get interest in the account or anything like that, but then when I go and say here that I made the payment of $1,423.33, which was the exact number that I put towards my car to pay it off, it's at least showing on here that I took money from my savings and then I used it to pay the car. My gym membership came out as well. And then I did have a couple other expenses come out since I got paid, because I am filming this a little bit late as well. Here's an example of like how I track our groceries as well, because again, we both put money into the account that we use for groceries and we both contribute equally. So then when we buy groceries, which is pretty much every Saturday or Sunday, I take whatever that total is and divide it by 2. I have here that on August 16th, I spent $46.71 on groceries. You know, really we spent like $93, but in order to track it, since I'm currently only tracking my expenses, that's how it makes sense to me. But also, I don't track it until we buy groceries. And then I did also spend $26.72 on gas. That's kind of how I start adding in things during the pay period, and we're about halfway through the month and I'm doing pretty well. There is one larger expense that we'll go over when I go over my budget, but that's all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting me on this journey. Anyway, enough of my sappiness. I love you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you soon in my next video.